Chances are if you clicked on this video, you're into 3D scanning and there's a new bird on the block. In my hands is the newly released 3DMakerPro Raven LiDAR scanner. You may want to pay attention because the price might just catch your eye. Before we get started, full disclosure, this video is sponsored by 3DMakerPro, but I'm really excited for this one because I did a bunch of research and I couldn't find a scanner less expensive than this one. So if you're a person where money's tight or you just want to get into the whole world of these big boy LiDAR cameras versus just using your iPhone LiDAR, then this would be the perfect entry point for that. So what do you get inside the box? You get the LiDAR scanner itself, you get a mounting plate as well as the grip. You get a USB drive to transfer your scans from the scanner to the computer, more on that later. And then you get the charging brick as well as additional mounting accessories. But that being said, there's two tiers of this Raven camera. You have the Raven Max and the regular Raven. This is the Raven Max that has two cameras. The base model Raven has one camera, and I'll put the prices up on the screen. But the standout thing about this pricing is the early bird offer for the base model, which is only $9.99. I can't believe that this scanner costs less than a new iPhone. That's actually crazy. All right, me from the future, 3DMakerPro just sent me an email and they're actually offering an additional $80 off any of the Raven variations for this pre-launch campaign. So not only are you getting that early bird special, but those $80 on top. So I'll leave that in the description down below. Go check that out. Anyways, back to the video. When I was getting into all this like professional LiDAR and scanning stuff, all of these scanners, they would cost like $10,000, $15,000, and there wasn't anything cheaper. But now that we leveled the playing field and there's consumer options that don't break the bank, it's just such a great time to get into this whole world of point clouds and 3D scanning. The reason why LiDAR scanners used to be so expensive, it's the fact that it was only marketed towards enterprise customers, people that were into surveying, construction, and digital archiving. But now there's a market for Gaussian splatting as well as creative work such as niche stuff as point clouds, but also this whole world of spatial computing, which pretty much just opened the door to the consumer and creative market. I'm going to read some specs off of my laptop comparing the Raven to the Eagle, because I'm assuming that the Eagle is the predecessor to the Raven, even though I was never officially told that. But just from like 3DMakerPro's marketing language, it does seem like that's the case. I'm not gonna go over every single technical parameter and specification. Rather, I'll leave that in the description below. I'm just gonna go over the important stuff. In terms of accuracy, both scanners have the same specifications. It's 2 centimeters at 10 meters, 3 centimeters at 20 meters, and 5 centimeters at 40 meters. And the scan range for the Raven is between 80 to 100 meters, down from 80 to 140 meters on the Eagle. For me, this isn't really a concern because I'm mostly scanning indoor spaces. The scan angle of the Raven is 40 degrees, less than that of the Eagle, which is 59 degrees. But the horizontal is still a full 360 degrees. The point cloud frequency is 25% less as well. It's 150,000 points per second versus 200,000 points. Personally, for me, this makes no difference whatsoever. Actually, better off because you're working with less data. You don't fill up the card as fast. When I work with point cloud stuff, I'm culling down points anyway. The amount of points don't necessarily matter. What matters more is the accuracy of the points. So between the Raven and the Eagle, it's the same accuracy, so that's still good. For me, the biggest home run when it comes to the Raven is the size and the weight. So yes, you're losing some range when it comes to scanning as well as field of view, but as a well worth trade-off, the footprint of the scanner is way, way smaller and lighter. So I'll just put these cameras side by side so you can see an actual difference in the footprint between the two. You can see that the Eagle is way taller. It is slightly thinner, but it is noticeably heavier as well. This is 1.5 kilos and the Raven is 1.1. As someone that has solo traveled, let me tell you that every single ounce counts. You wouldn't want to carry something so heavy with you versus the 0.4 less kilos. It really does make a huge difference. Plus, on top of that, the Raven has double the rating of runtime. The Raven lasts for 2 hours versus the Eagle that only lasts on 1 hour on a full charge. Plus, on 3D Maker Pro's website, they sell additional mounting kits, so you can even mount the scanner on a bike, on a car, or even a drone. And that really opens up the field. You can make some really large scale scans with those type of mounting kits. I really love their new grip. Their old one I found to be a little bit flimsy. This new one has a locking mechanism, so you can do whatever you want. You can shake it all around and it will not detach from the grip. With the Eagle, the battery is integrated into the unit itself. With the Raven, the battery is integrated into the grip. So the crazy thing is that you can actually run this entire setup without the grip because you can just power off of the Type-C. But on top of that, if you want to bring the grip with you, you don't need all those power adapters. Those are good to have just in case you're working in a professional setting. But if you really wanted to, you could charge off of just the Type-C right here, which makes your setup a whole lot leaner. Plus, I just had to say, look at the difference of the display quality between the Eagle and the Raven. You can see that this one has better contrast because it's OLED, but it's also way larger and has way more quality. And also both cameras under the hood, they run the same software, so there'll be no surprises if you're coming from the Eagle. For the field test of the scanner, I took it to Soho in New York City. I live in Brooklyn, so that was just a short train ride for me to get there. And the specific street I scanned was Mercer Street between Broome and Spring Street. Before you start scanning, you want to make sure, and this is very important, to make sure that the camera has the proper exposure before you start scanning. Because you don't want underexposed or blown out color data with your point clouds. That would suck. So make sure to have proper exposure before you start your scan. I pretty much just walked down the street, making sure to hold the scanner as level as possible and also not getting run over any cars during the process. Plus, another thing that I did with this field test is I made sure to get loop closure. That's a specific thing with SLAM scanners, which is what this is, a SLAM LiDAR scanner, that your start and end points are the same. That way, if you accumulate any drift during your scan, it's allowed to recalibrate and not have any accuracy issues. For the type of scan that I was doing, wasn't absolutely necessary, but it's good to do just in case for good measure. Why not? During the actual scanning process on the screen, you can switch between different scanning previews of what's actually being scanned. This isn't the actual real point cloud. When you're done scanning and bringing that into the computer, then you get the full point cloud with all the points. This scan was pretty straightforward. We had good shooting conditions, good lighting. Another thing that you do want to keep in mind is that while you're scanning, you want to keep your distance or have some sort of clearance from objects you're scanning if possible, because just based off of the way that these cameras are designed, it's better to have distance because it does have blind spots. So now that all the scanning is complete, the last step is to bring the data from the scanner into your computer and process the scan. First up, 3D Maker Pro, they advise to use the USB that comes with the scanner. Plug it into your scanner and then transfer it to the USB and then plug the USB and transfer it into your computer. I suggest skipping all of that. So the SD card is actually at the bottom of the scanner. You want to take that SD card out, the micro SD card, and before you do any scanning with it, you want to format it on your computer. That way it is formatted to the correct file system that Windows recognizes or Mac recognizes. I tested with Windows, not 100% sure if it works the same way on Mac, but once you format it for Windows and plug it back into your scanner, it recognizes it, no issue. You could do the scan, just pull out the SD card and slap it straight into your computer and not do any of that transferring shenanigans with the USB provided. Just use this USB for, I don't know, your pirated music or something. So now that we have the finished Soho scan, I want to hop into the computer and show you how the actual completed result looks like. And to not make this video too long, I already processed everything beforehand. We're using the software RayStudio, which you can get from 3D Maker Pro's website. But the first thing I want to show is this recalculate trajectory is what I'm assuming TRJ stands for. But you can see that we got a loop here. So that's the loop closure I was talking about. And once you hit basic data, we get this completed point cloud. So you can see it actually reaches the tops of each of these single buildings, which is really great. Here's the color result. You can see that it captured the color as well as all the points. It also does reach the top of the buildings like it does with the non-color point cloud. The only caveat is that you're losing a little bit more than half of the points. This one is about 5.9 million points, the color point cloud, and the non-color point cloud is about 12.4 million points. There's a percentage of points that the LiDAR scanner picks up, but the RGB cameras can't see because of a blind spot. So in the colorized point cloud, those points are dropped. The Raven is also marketed to support Gaussian splatting. The results are okay near the bottom, but at the top, it does deteriorate quite a bit. That being said, that is expected because Gaussian splats are based off of real captures rather than generating or guessing data. As for the actual detail of the Gaussian splats, you do get pretty much the entire environment. But when it comes to fine detail, such as signs or stuff in the storefront to read, you are missing quite a bit of detail. That being said, I don't think just using the standalone scanner is recommended for Gaussian splats, even though it does support it. I think you're better off getting the add-on with the 360 camera, because then you get full 360 coverage of points as well as color data, and that gives you a better Gaussian splat result. When it comes to the accuracy of these LiDAR scans, I can't speak too much on that because I'm using the scans for creative applications rather than surveying where the stuff needs to be way more precise. But that being said, I did bring the colored point cloud into Blender so you can see the accuracy for yourself. Just from the top-down view, you can see that we did get quite a bit of detail and the lines are straight. I'm just gonna fly by a few things and you can make your own judgment of the accuracy based off of the footage. Here's one of those no parking poles that are like all over New York. Here is a traffic light, and then we have the pedestrian crosswalk sign right here. I also want to show you this van parked on the street right here. And if I phase into this truck right here, you can kind of get an idea of the level of accuracy at this distance that the scanner did pick up. You can see that not all the points are in the same place. There is some amount of noise, but that is to be expected when doing large scale scans like this. Here's the back of the truck, maybe to also give you an idea of how it assigns color to each of the individual points. And then you can see it did pick up the structure of the fire escapes as well as the building facades. You can see that it picked up over here the different, I guess, protrusions of the building. I'm not an architect, I don't know what that's called. Also, another thing to notice is that the higher you go, the point cloud density does naturally thin out. That is to be expected due to the technology of LiDAR. Here is a staircase as well. Looks to be a pedestrian on the street. And here's just a wider view of the entire scan. One drawback about this camera that I haven't mentioned yet in the video, but I think is important to mention, is that you can use it in indoor environments, but there will be noise. I suggest using the Raven for outdoor scanning or indoor environments that are well lit. And if the shooting environment that you're in is way too dark for these cameras, then I would suggest looking into attaching a 360 camera that has good low light capabilities on top of that, because then you could combine a capture of the 360 camera with the LiDAR camera in post and get higher quality color data and textures from that. So if you want to grab a Raven scanner for yourself, I'll have a link down below in the description where you can get it. The early bird special is reserved for only the first 100 people. That's probably gonna go by quick because I'm sure there's a lot of people that are getting into the world of LiDAR right now. So go check out the Raven before that early bird ends, and be sure to subscribe to me. I'm not sticking to a niche anymore. I'm opening up the doors, getting into tech, spatial, LiDAR, AI, all of the emerging tech. So be sure to subscribe if you want to stay up to date on what's changing at the intersection of art and technology. That's the end of the video. I'll see you in the next one, only if you subscribed. If you didn't, maybe I'll pop up in your suggested anyway, but take care and have a good one. Peace.